Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Player's Take. I'm your host, Justin DeSimone, and joined by my two co-hosts, the League of Legends degenerate, Montreal Rice, and, as usual, the Queen Supreme herself, Tiara Atari. How are you guys doing this week?
Fine. I just don't like how you recycle nicknames. I thought this was going to be a fun. I get a new nickname.
This is not recycling. I told you permanent nicknames, and that is yours until we come up with a better one. So
just feel like
I don't.
You did agree.
You just want to be lazy.
We agreed to it. We agreed to it. And on the topic of nicknames, by the way, we got some listener feedback this week. From somebody named Dill, and I won't say the last name.
Is this a fake person?
We're not sure. We think so.
Is this a fake person?
We think this is a troll, so we're gonna figure this out on the show live. So here it is. Here are the nicknames they suggested for me. Tintin is the first one. Juicy D and JD, like DEE. For both of those.
JD?
Yeah. Like JAYD.
For who? Me?
For me.
For him. Because we were trying to figure out the question today.
I don't have a nickname. This was all for me.
So wait, no, I know. Okay, so wait. So separate nicknames are all one word.
These are all nicknames for Justin.
Three of them.
Three different suggestions.
Okay.
Yeah, first one's Tintin. I have no idea why. I don't know the significance of this one. Juicy D is the second one, and the third one is JD. Like JAYDE.
Why?
I don't know. It's hilarious.
I don't know. So, I mean, Montreal really enjoys. I think Montreal likes the Juicy D one. That one seems to make him giggle. So,
fucking hilarious.
We need more suggestions on this. So I don't really personally like any of these myself.
I like the second one, Dill.
I appreciate the feedback, Dill. I do. I absolutely do appreciate the feedback, but I don't personally love any of these. But if you guys have any others you would like to suggest, you can do so at theplayerstake01@gmail.com, or you can send us a Twitter message on Twitter at theplayerstake. Either one of those.
Or you can just ask us general questions about anything, and we'll discuss it on the show.
Absolutely. You can send us general questions if you don't care about the nicknames as well. But it's not just for me, by the way, guys. These nicknames, not just for me, also for Montreal and Tiara. If you have suggestions for them, I came up with these because they're giving me shit about the nicknames every week, and I don't have the patience for it. So I just, fuck it.
Actually, I do have a question for the listeners.
You really got a week.
I do have a question for the listeners.
I mean, do you think I don't do anything during the week, Tiara? Like, I don't have anything else going on. I'm just going to sit. I wake up, I pet Miss Kitty in the morning, and then I go into my office and I just sit around. And I'm like, man, I need to think of nicknames for Montreal and Tiara. Like, I got nothing else going on.
All I'm saying is that, if it's a problem for you, you need to hash out extra time to brainstorm. That's what I tell my students.
I asked both of you if you want this to be better, maybe you guys could help me and come up with nicknames yourselves.
But that's no fun. That's no fun coming up with a nickname myself. The fun is for you to come up with a nickname because this is what you started.
Well, so you admit it was fun at one point.
Oh my god.
Yeah, until you start haphazardly, doing it.
Look, it's easier to do for one person. When I had to start doing it for two, it's harder, because like I said, I don't know you super well, Tiara. So I just gotta come up with something. Some weeks, nothing comes to mind. So, Queen Supreme, it is. All right. Is there any other bullshit you guys want to talk about before we get into the real show here?
I was going to ask the viewers that are listening. Y'all can send your regular questions in, but I do have a question for you guys. What was your first console or first game that you ever got you into gaming, and then why? So that's my question. And we'll read some of the answers on the show if you guys email us back.
And then maybe we'll discuss our own.
Yeah.
That would be a fun little segment. Okay. So for those of you who haven't listened before, the show is not about nicknames. is about video games. It is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast app of choice. We also post 6 a.m. Central Time on Mondays on YouTube if you would rather listen to it there. So let's get into it. Let's start like we always do with what we've been playing. Who would like to go first this week?
I've been playing Among Us.
All right, TR's going first.
Yes. Because that's all I've been playing is Among Us. Like, I can't wait to get a break and play Among Us. It's a game that my students play without me. And, you know, I feel very sad about that. Because I was the one who suggested that we all play. And, you know, but no, I love Among Us. It's like the funniest game ever to me. Mm-hmm. I played with Shane the other day, and it was funny because I was the imposter, he was a crewmate, and obviously we're sitting next to each other. And he's like, "So what am I supposed to do with that information?" I was just like, "Look, just hush, just don't blow my cover.
Oh my God.
Just don't blow my cover. This is all you can do." Right. And it was funny because he decided to troll that game. He just like randomly accused somebody. They floated the person. And of course, in the game of Among Us, if you accuse somebody and they wasn't the imposter, or you say you saw somebody do something they wasn't it, then they immediately vote you out the next time. Mm-hmm. Because that's just like what it is. It's like, because you know, it's like they feel like you was lying.
You can't be trusted. You're a double agent.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get better with being an imposter. I've been looking at some YouTube videos on how to be a better imposter. I'm looking at some YouTube videos on different tricks and trades of the different maps, where events locate. You know, just kind of doing my research in the game. But yeah, I love this game. Such a simple game. You know, it's so funny because the creators of Among Us, they were right before the game got popular. So I don't know how long this game has actually been out, but right before the game got popular, they were in the midst of making a second one, so an Among Us 2.
But they can't. That's right, they can't.
But this game was so popular that they just canceled the sequel in order to make focus their attention on making this game better. But it's such a simple game. And that just goes to show you that gaming doesn't have to be Ghost of Tsushima graphics to be like really good.
Yeah.
Well, that's something about running around, killing people, and lying and blaming other people. Something about this is just so fun.
I think it plays off something that I think a lot of games don't take advantage of, and it's the social aspect that video games can really kind of accentuate. And it's so simple, but you're letting the players create the fun. You've given them like that game. It sounds like it gives you a framework, right? It's a very simple framework, but the players have so much input that they're creating their own narrative within the game, like you have these like sub narratives of like, oh, well, like Shane lied, so everybody knows he lied. So now he's like, we're going to float him, even though that doesn't help us win, because you're trying to find the imposter, not kill other fucking crew members. Right. It's like, I know. But it's like, so yeah, that's what the game's kind of playing off of, right? That those like social interactions, and I think that's why the game is probably taking off, because it is endlessly replayable because of that, because you're going to get a different group of people every time that react differently, play differently, think differently, have different experiences, so that simplicity actually probably lends itself more to allowing the players really to drive the fun. Yeah,
it's so funny because sometimes like people will call a meeting, people get somebody be like, it's white, and then people go, proof, I saw him, and I go, oh, good enough for me. Good enough for me.
I'm just imagining the text thread there. White, proof, I saw him. Okay.
That's literally how it is. That's awesome. Literally how it is. And let me be the imposter. Oh, I'm for sure like, oh, good.
I would be so bad at this game because I would be the one, I'd accuse somebody, right? And then they'd say proof, and I would write like a 3-paragraph essay on what they like, everything they were doing.
Yeah, but you don't have time.
I know, right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I would, and then they would be like, "Oh, you're a liar. You're trying to come up with some lie or something." Like, so I'd get floated probably.
I mean, it's just like little stuff in the game, like somebody faking a task, or
Yeah.
yeah, I don't call people doing imposter stuff on camera. Yeah, it's so funny. I have my strategy now. I am my name in the game is Green, but my character is not green. So when they say, "Oh, it was green," it's like, "Oh, the color green, the person is green." Like, what green? And people get confused, and sometimes that confusion saves you. It doesn't always work.
Probably,
But-
yeah, it probably does the opposite too sometimes.
Right. But I love it.
Cool.
Do y'all play Among Us?
Yeah, I've been playing it a little bit. I haven't been playing it as much, but I played like a couple games with my friends. It's pretty fun. I was in their Discord playing it.
It's free on iOS, right, or on mobile.
Yeah,
And then it's $5 It's $5 on PC.
Yeah, I can't play it on mobile just because it's so hard. Not hard or anything, but like when you want to type something, you gotta like go through like 3 different steps to type stuff. Whereas on PC, you just click the little chat button, you type in, press enter. And it's not like that on the mobile side. Like you gotta press the little button, then you gotta press enter, then you gotta press this, and it's like I don't really like it too much.
Is it crossplay? Like,
Yeah.
can you play from PC to mobile? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess it doesn't matter what platform.
Yeah. So I've been playing it on the PC, and I've been like with Discord with my friends, and we'll all mute each other when we're playing, and they will all unmute each other when like we have to do a meeting or something like that. So
that's crazy that you be playing this game with people when I said we should play. And
hey, I only played it like 3 or 4 times though.
She's the only reason
I
you're
don't
playing
wanna
this game
hear
too.
nothing.
Isn't that so fucked up?
It's not. Actually, my friends in my group chat was telling me about get this game way before her. So But yeah, what have you been playing, Justin?
I've been playing a little bit more this week. I got back into Crosscode. Actually, this has been like a almost a 3-month odyssey with this game at this point, where I played it for like a weekend, got really obsessed with it, and then like stopped playing it for like 4 weeks in a row, and just do that. Like I've done that like 4 times now. But I got back into it. I'm endeavoring to finish it this time. I got really far with it this weekend. I finished 2 more dungeons. I think I have 1 more dungeon to go, and then some more stuff after that, and then I think I'm done with the game almost. Yeah, this game I've talked about it a few times, but now that I am much further in it, I'm just gonna be honest. Like, I think this game is phenomenally made. Like, I think it's a brilliant game, but this is not for the faint of heart. Like, if you don't like puzzles or puzzles frustrate you, do not fucking play this game. You will want to tear your fucking hair out. Like, it is the puzzles in this game are insanely intense. Like they just and it's not even just how hard they are individually. It's the gauntlet of them that you're going through in these dungeons, where it is just room after room after room after room. There are very few breaks in the puzzles. It's like you finish one puzzle and then you go to the next room, and then there's an even more intricate puzzle in the next room. Like, and they do it in a way where they're trying to layer like mechanics onto you, where you're like learning as you go through the dungeon, like new things you can do with the powers you have. But it's very, very, very intense sometimes. Some dungeons are obviously harder than others, but I'd say all 4 of them so far have been difficult. I don't think any of them have been easy. So the game is really good, though. I just like I feel like designing puzzles of this caliber it's got to be so difficult to do, for a developer. So I really commend this dev team on this. Like, it's a great game. I'm really looking forward to finishing it. It's a game that like takes a lot of mental energy, so I can't play it for like an entire day, the way I could with like Ghost of Tsushima or something like that. So that's kind of why it's been so slow for me, I think. But still, highly recommended if you like puzzles or Zelda games and you're looking for something a little bit more intense than what Zelda usually gives you. This probably is the game, honestly. So otherwise, I haven't really been playing much of anything else. Montreal, what about you? What have you been playing?
Playing a little bit of League of Legends. I played Yakuza some more because I've just been looking for a game to like wind down on, and I like Yakuza. It's open world, but it's not like too open world. It's like really self-contained, if that makes any sense. So it's a really small world that you go into and you play, and the story is actually really good. I mean, I'm really invested in the story, so I didn't think the story. I thought people were over exaggerating about how good the story is, but it's actually really good. So I mean, I like it. It's like a a Japanese mafia take on things, and it's Yakuza, so it's pretty cool. And then I've been playing this other game called Sonic GT, which is a fan-made game, but it's a complete fan-made game. They've been working on this game for about 3 or 4 years, or probably even longer than that. They finally completed it at the beginning of this month. And one of my YouTubers I follow, who plays like nothing but Sonic games, he recommended it, and it's a full game. It has 4 levels in it, and you get to play as 3 different characters: Sonic, Shadow, and I forgot the other character name from Chaotic. And it's probably the best 3D Sonic game I've ever played. And I am including the adventure games. So it's like the way the game's designed is it has full voice acting too, which is not bad. It has a little story as well, which the story isn't bad. It's it's a Sonic game, and they're not making the story overcomplicated like they did in like Adventures or Adventures 2 or anything like that. But the levels are fucking huge, and they're open world like levels, or not open world levels, but they're really open as far as like you got multiple paths to take to get to the goal, to the end of the level. So it's like they combined Sonic Adventure, Sonic and Knuckles 3 from the 2D platformer games, and then Sonic Colors. But this game does something good where it doesn't have any 2D sections. Like in 3D Sonic, there's a meme that it always has a 2D section. This game has no 2D sections, and there's always multiple paths to get to the goal in each level. And I found like the best optimal routes because I've been playing the game like nonstop. Like that's how good the game is. If this game gets a lot of more traction, I recommend people play. It's called Sonic GT. It's free to download. You can download it from like GameJolt.com. That has a whole bunch of fan-made games and everything of that nature. I highly recommend it. Like if you're a Sonic fan, I highly recommend it. Even if you don't like Sonic, I think it's a really, really good platformer. This is how you should make a high-speed platforming game, and they did it. I mean, these are nothing but fans, and they designed their own music for the game. They did their own voice acting for the game, everything. So it's like a completely 100% fan-made game. No like rehashes from like the actual IP, besides the characters themselves, if that makes any sense. So it's a really good game, and there's no fucking boost. It's really good, so I recommend it. Sonic GT.
Is there any indication from like Sega that they've seen this game, or like any interactions with the team that made this?
No, not yet. Like I said, the game was just dropped like a couple weeks ago. So I'm not really expecting it to blow all the way up, but it is getting circulation within the Sonic community, and Sega is usually relatively close within the Sonic community, so I'm assuming they will look at this game and probably pick them up, because this is one of the games that stands out from a lot. There's a ton of fan-made Sonic games, but this one stands out. Like this is like actually, it looks like a actual developer made this game. Like they put time and effort into the level design. I can hardly find any glitches in the game. Like this is a really polished game. And it's really good. Like it's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, because wasn't Sonic Mania a similar situation where they like picked up like a fan made like game developer and kind of had them make a Sonic game?
Yeah, so Sonic Mania was made by Christian Whitehead. He made, like you said, just a regular 2D platformer, Sonic, fan-made Sonic one, and then they picked him up and he remastered he remastered Sonic 1, 2, and I don't know about 3. Sonic 1 and 2 are on the mobile, and then he remastered Sonic CD on the mobile as well, like official Sega licenses. And then once that got a lot of money, I guess Sega was like, hey, you can make your full-fledged Sonic Mania game, and yeah, that took off. So it is a meme, but it's a true meme that Sonic fans make better games than Sonic teams. So
yeah, it sounds about right. I mean, Sega struggled with that for like 20 years, didn't they? At this point, so
Yeah, I mean, it's something Nintendo could kind of learn from if they stop canceling everyone's games. So,
Yeah, well, they'd have to fire their whole legal team for that. So that's never going to happen. All right. Well, let's move into the news then. So we got some interesting news stories this week. Amazon, our first one is Amazon has unveiled their own cloud gaming service called Luna. And basically, so what this is going to be is it's going to be their streaming service. It's going to be playable on Fire TV, Mac, Windows PC, Android, and iOS mobile devices. But on iOS, that platform will not have an app through the App Store. It will be played through a web-based solution.
so that's how they got around it. Okay.
Yeah, so they're going to get around that. So this service, though, is going to offer subscriptions to what they're calling game channels. So I don't know. The story doesn't necessarily specify, but if you're going to have to pay for each subscription to different game channels, I'm not sure about that. But so the first one, though, is called Luna Plus, and it's going to have Resident Evil 7, Control, Panzer Dragoon, Plague Tale Innocence, Surge 2, Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, Iconoclast, Grid, Absu, Brothers, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. And they said they're going to add more titles over time. And this is going to cost initially $5.99 per month. And you can play on 2 devices simultaneously. They're promising 4K with 60 FPS refresh rates for certain titles, is what they said.
All right.
They're also working on an Ubisoft channel with Ubisoft that will be specific to their games, but not sure at this point if you're going to... So that's what it seems like. This is going to be like an a la carte thing where you pay for different channels, and you'll have to pay a certain amount per month to have access to all those channels at the same time. It says Luna Plus will cost $5.99 per month. It does not say the whole service will cost $5.99 a month. So I'm assuming the Ubisoft channel is going to have its own cost, probably similarly priced once they get that up and running. So this is a little bit more interesting approach than something we've seen like Google Stadia or even xCloud or PlayStation Now, where they're kind of holistic services that you get access to, where this is going to be more piecemeal. So what do you guys think of this?
I don't know about this one. I mean, besides the streaming platform thing, the channel thing, I'm not really too fond of. I mean, I think that might pick up steam, and that may be really bad.
I mean, that's almost like cable, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
They're gonna get to this point where they start doing what cable does, where you have like a whole package you have to buy, and then you can start buying specific channels. Like it's, I don't know.
I wish corporations would understand. I think it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna take off. To be honest with you, so I wish corporations understand that. It may take off in other parts of the world. I don't think it's going to take off here in America. Only reason I say that is because our infrastructure shit. Like, we can't handle this. Even in the best, 1 gigabyte areas. I don't think we can handle this yet. And then if you are living in that area, I mean, people are still getting consoles and stuff like that. This is future tech. Yeah, and I understand it has to make a ground somewhere. Maybe it should have been an app on the console, if that makes any sense. That probably would have been cool, but just having it as its own thing. Maybe in smaller countries or smaller regions like Europe and Japan, where the internet is the infrastructure is actually really good over there, and Europe and Japan, it will work over there, but I can't see working for other first world countries like South Africa and even us and Australia, because the infrastructure just isn't there yet. Companies need to invest more time into the infrastructure before we can start doing stuff like this.
Well, Tiara, what do you think? How do you feel about these streaming services at this point?
I think it's too many of them. Just the other day, me and Shane were like, all right, how can we cut down on streaming services, combining our services between the two of us? Because it's just so many of them.
Yeah. I mean, this same problem happened already in the video streaming world, where everybody has their own fucking streaming service at this point, and we're it looks like we're heading that way with games too. Because I mean, what is this? The 4th one? Maybe there might even be more that I'm not thinking of. Because I'm thinking of PlayStation Now, xCloud, this one, and then Google Stadia. And I mean, I think and there's GeForce now, actually. Yeah, that's 5.
GeForce, yeah.
And they all do things very differently from each other. So at least in that front, there's some diversity in the way the content is kind of delivered to users. But yeah, I kind of with you. Like I don't know. I feel like they're all jumping the gun. Like Montreal said, I just don't feel like the United States specifically is ready for this kind of thing yet. There's still so much bullshit and red tape surrounding internet providers and stuff like that it's like, for instance, my house, I have 150 megabit connection up down, right? And I looked on Frontier's website last week or a couple weeks ago to see if they offer anything better than that now, because that's not super great these days. And they do. They offer half gig connection, 500 megabit, and then a gigabit connection as well. And for new people, it's $40 for the half gig and then $75 for the gig connection per month. And I'm paying, I think, $70 right now for my shitty 150. And I called them and they were like, they wanted to charge me $40 more for the gigabit connection on top of my $70 that I'm paying right now. That's the kind of bullshit that we have to deal with in the United States. And until that is fixed or done better, which it probably never will, this is just going to be a pain in the ass. Like these companies, they just do not care about offering good service. Like that is not, because we all are beholden to them. So
yeah, I think they're trying to make gaming, like you said, the Netflix of gaming and stuff like that. I think the only person that's really doing it well is Xbox. The simple fact that because you can download your games. I don't think companies understand, even Google, like they don't understand input delay. Like that's a huge deal in gaming. And we still, even with console games, some games still deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's intentional or not intentional. And just imagining the input delay on streaming games, that shit's going to be terrible. So I think they need to get actual gamers like to test play this, because if they get actual gamers, a lot of people will tell them the number one thing is input delay. Like that's it. I can maybe play a strategic RPG on this, or strategy game, or a turn-based game on streaming, which I wouldn't mind, because that doesn't require inputs like that, timing inputs. But other games, like if I want to play God of War or something like that, right, on PlayStation Now, if it ever comes to that, like that shit would be terrible, because it's like the input delay would be fucking horrendous.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we'll keep monitoring this as more of these get released. I'm sure this is not the end, I'm sure. Yeah. But Amazon jumping into the fray is not a surprise. So all right, let's move on to our next story. We've talked about Game Pass a lot on this show, and we talked about ZeniMax getting acquired by Microsoft last week. And the first fallout from that is that Doom Eternal is coming to Game Pass for consoles on October 1st, which is by the time you hear this will already be part of Game Pass. So it's coming to PC at a later date, but I think this is just I think this is a good thing to touch on, because it confirms that, I mean, these games are all coming to Game Pass. Like all Bethesda's games are probably coming to Game Pass. Doom Eternal is a huge game that came out earlier this year. It's one of the biggest games of the year, and they're putting it in Game Pass. Like that is a huge value add for Game Pass's kind of value proposition. So I don't know. What do you guys expect, I guess, in terms of time frame? Like, do you think they're gonna add Bethesda stuff piecemeal, like kind of shortly over time, or you think there's gonna be just a giant like dump of games at some point, like all the Fallouts and
yeah, that's exactly what I expect to happen.
Yeah, I was under the impression that the Fallout games are already on Game Pass. They're not.
Are they? I don't know. They might be.
No, I know Fallout 4 for sure is.
Okay.
It is? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's kind of expected. I don't think everyone was thinking that they're going to do exclusivity deals or whatever. But even still, like, we bought this company for a reason, so we're going to do some kind of exclusive deals. You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
But I don't think for the next 2 or 3 major games coming out, like Starfield, I don't think that's going to be exclusive or whatever. Like, it may come straight to Game Pass though.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think that's what this kind of indicates is
yeah.
they're not going to be shy about putting these games on Game Pass. Like,
Yeah, because I was thinking about it the other day, about what you said about the $7.5 billion, and Disney bought Star Wars at $3.2 billion, something like that.
no, it's 4 billion.
Oh, it's $4 billion they bought them. Okay. So I'm assuming if they are gonna put Doom Eternal like coming out, and then like Starfield, right, coming straight to Game Pass, that's already included in Bethesda already got their money. Like that's included in that 7.5 billion right there. Like that's
Well,
already...
no, they own them. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Now. Like there's no like Bethesda can't say no. If Microsoft says we want all your games on Game Pass, I mean Bethesda they can't do anything about it. Like ZeniMax can't do anything about it. Like they're owned by Microsoft. Like they can do whatever they want with these games. So that's why I mean I think all of them will be on there at some point in time, and they're not going to come off the way. Like Ciara mentioned, like games falling off Game Pass. Like these games, this is kind of the big point of buying this is that this is like you're building a catalog for Game Pass that's never going to change, and then some of the periphery games are going to go in and out over time, because that's just the way the deals work.
Yeah.
It's just like Netflix with that. So it's like.
Then
But they're building a really solid catalog,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
A base catalog. So, and Doom's going to be part of that. I mean, that's a huge get for them. Like Doom Eternal is huge. Like Doom is a huge franchise. Like borderline as big as like Fallout, in my opinion. So,
shit, might be bigger than to be.
Yeah, right. It might be. It has way more. It has a lot more history with gaming than Fallout does.
Yeah,
so
I think it has a better cultural impact on video games than Fallout. So
exactly. Yeah. So I mean, it I don't know. I think this is interesting. It is kind of a routine thing, like, but I wanted to bring it up because it's this is the first like kind of big part of this deal that's already coming to fruition for them. So I would expect more in the future. If Elder Scrolls games aren't on there, they probably will be soon.
Yeah.
I would imagine. So
I'm still trying to see the negative from this deal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really can't see a negative right now. I mean, I guess if you just hate Microsoft, then yeah. But I don't know. I'm still seeing people building up conspiracy theories, and this is the worst thing to happen to gaming. I'm like, okay. I'm trying to see it from your perspective, but I don't know.
There's a lot of people I think that still believe that they're going to make all these games exclusive to Xbox, and that seems to be the popular theory. Like most people seem to think that, and I'm seeing this in games media a lot where they're all assuming these games are going to be exclusive to Xbox, and that seems really, that just seems like this just doesn't feel like what Microsoft would do. Like they've been doing this kind of agnostic thing for years. Why would they all of a sudden just do like a 180 and change their minds? It doesn't really make sense to me. So yeah, I think that's where a lot of the hate's coming from, because I think a lot of people are concerned that Starfield and whatever, the Elder Scrolls 6 are going to be Xbox exclusive. And it just seems really unlikely. Like, I'm not... You go ahead, Montro.
It seems weird, because I just feel like if this was the shoe was on the other foot, like
they'd be sucking Sony's dick.
I just feel like people would be like, yo, now all these games got to be exclusive, and this is the greatest move ever and stuff like that.
They would be, though. If Sony had bought ZeniMax, the games would be exclusive. Like, I would guarantee you that, because that's the thing. These companies have two different approaches. Like, that's Sony's approach, is exclusives.
Yeah.
Xbox is not that. They're doing a different thing. Like Game Pass is their exclusive. That's what their exclusive is, and they have been running their company with that in mind, like trying to make that a better service.
But you know what? I wouldn't be mad either way, right? Say if Sony did buy Bethesda and they wanted to make their games exclusive to Sony, I wouldn't be mad at that, because like, what did you expect? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really understand what would you expect. So same thing with Microsoft. Like, if they decide to make their next upcoming titles 5 years from now, the new Elder Scrolls 6 coming out exclusively for Xbox, or be a timed exclusive or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I expect that because it's Xbox and they own the IP. I mean, I don't know. It's just weird how everyone's thought process. The only real danger, I should say, that's like a 10% chance of happening is if Microsoft buys up everyone, all the studios in fucking gaming, like 90% of the studios, which will never happen. So
I know, but they're not done. They keep saying they got more money they want to spend. So,
yeah, they keep throwing. They keep wanting to. People keep hinting about Sega. Like Sega keeps playing with this. They're actually making tweets, and Xbox is making tweets too. So, I mean, I kind of expected that though, because they always had like a relationship with each other. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, that's all I got.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on. This is actually sort of related. So there's been a rumor flying around. This has been flying around for months, actually. We haven't really reported on it on this show, but I wanted to bring it up in relation to this Xbox buying Bethesda story. Is that Metal Gear Solid might be getting a full remake coming to PlayStation 5 as an exclusive. And this has been the most recent rumor is from a channel called Red Gaming Tech, and the source that they're using has a very good track record. That they were citing has a very good track record in the past with this kind of information. And the source did say that Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and 4 will be re-released, but they would just be remasters at this point in time. So I don't know how much I believe this, but I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think this is real? Do you think Metal Gear Solid's getting remade by Sony or otherwise, Konami even?
I think Konami will do it if Sony is like, hey, we'll give you the money for it. That's the only way I can see that happening. Like the only way. It has been a while since we haven't had a Metal Gear game come out. And the last Metal Gear game that came out, 5, was cross-platform, which I think was, I don't want to say the first Metal Gear to be cross-platform, because Twin Snakes came on GameCube, and Metal Gear 3, I think, was cross-platform as well. It came on the GameCube and PS2.
Twin Snakes?
Twin Snakes.
It was a GameCube exclusive.
Yeah, and then but I think Metal Gear 3, that one was GameCube and PS2, I believe.
I think it was just on PS2. Actually, I don't think it was on GameCube.
I think it was on GameCube. I could have sworn it was on GameCube.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
All right. But yeah, so I mean, I think that's the only way Konami would do it, because I think Konami just recently remastered some of the Castlevania games, didn't they? Didn't they just re-release them or something like that?
They re-released them, yes.
Okay.
Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night. They did that last year.
Okay, so I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility that they do a re-release. It's been about 5 years. Yeah, it's been about 5 years since the last Metal Gear game came out. So, I mean, maybe those pachinko.
Metal Gear Survive.
Anyway, like I said, it's been about 5 years since the last Metal Gear game came out.
Yeah.
And yeah, that game was terrible too. So, I mean, but Metal Gear 5 was pretty good. So, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe the Pachinko machine. We did hear rumors of Microsoft, of Konami getting back into gaming, but it was for esports. Like they're trying to bring up their sports gaming franchise. But I don't know. I'm pretty iffy about this one. Only way I can see this happening is if Sony cash out the money to buy the Metal Gear franchise, and then Kojima Productions, or they may have a third party doing it, but like Kojima's like back on, like overseeing the project or some shit like that. That's the only way I can see it happening. I can see them remaking. When you want a game to be remade, that means you want the whole franchise to come back like fresh. So you're probably making a Metal Gear 6 or some shit like that. But it's like I can't see Konami doing this. Like I can't see Konami taking the Metal Gear franchise and making it without Kojima. Like that would be fucking weird.
Yeah, but
you know what I'm saying?
Like you mentioned, what if Sony acquired the IP? I mean, so this is an interesting thought that people think Sony needs to kind of like buy something in response to
I have
Xbox.
been saying that. Yeah, I've been saying that a lot.
And wouldn't it be smart to buy these Konami IPs, Metal Gear Solid, Castlevania? You could even do PES, like Pro Evolution Soccer. You could do those 3. Those are the big ones that Konami even has. And whatever that's worth, buy it, and then buy Kojima's studio. You already have a good relationship with him. Just make it official. Buy their studio.
Official. Shit.
It isn't. No. There's still a second party. So, oh yeah, and then you buy Silent Hill too. Actually, that'd be the fourth IP.
Yeah,
And
maybe they should just look into buying IPs instead of actual studios.
they should. I think that's the route they need to take because they don't have the capital to buy Bethesda.
Yeah,
Anybody even close to Bethesda's size. Honestly, they probably don't even have the capital to buy somebody like even Mojang's size when it was like sold for $2 billion or whatever it was. Like that's a lot of money, and Sony's not nearly as big as Microsoft in that regard. So like it wouldn't make sense. But buying IPs like this, I don't know how much these IPs would be worth, but it wouldn't be anywhere near $1 billion. I wouldn't think.
No, I can't see that. Only thing I think Metal Gear would be, I think that would be close to $1 billion. The only reason I say that is because of the pachinko machines. Like that's the only thing I can see.
Yeah, but so they can make a deal with Konami where they can let them continue to license the IP
do
for the
hardware
pachinko
or something like
machines.
that.
Yeah, like who cares?
Yeah.
No one's gonna see that anyways. And like and then you buy Kojima's studio, and then you either give him Metal Gear Solid back or you give him Silent Hill, one of the two of those, and Sony would be like fucking heroic. Can you imagine the online discourse around that kind of deal? Like they would be people would be losing their minds. Like,
so yeah, that's why this rumor is kind of weird to me, because if Sony did do that, right? Even if Sony was like, "Yo, we'll play you exclusive money to make a Metal Gear game for us, or make the next Metal Gear IP for us," I feel like Sony would more than likely blast that out, because that's huge, right? That's like a huge thing. Since Microsoft has been taking a lot of W's lately, like, I don't know. It would just make more sense for them to do that, in my opinion. And the simple fact that they haven't done that is kind of weird to me. The simple fact that they haven't even considered buying IPs, maybe they have, and Konami just doesn't want to give it up. I mean, we don't know. So, wish you had an insider. That would be cool. If you had an insider, because I'm pretty sure if we're like low-level peons thinking this shit, like, oh, why don't you just buy IPs? I'm pretty sure the executives up at Sony are like, yo, we should buy IPs.
They're having meetings. They've been having meetings for the past week, ever since Microsoft bought Bethesda or bought ZeniMax. Like, they're figuring out what they can probably do right now, and probably thinking of a response. So, or if they even want to respond at all, that's
well, they should definitely respond, but they should definitely do it with some kind of obscure IP that people love. So yeah, like Castlevania, fucking Metal Gear, or Metal Gear, Silent Hill, the Breath of Fire franchise from fucking Capcom.
Oh hell yeah, dude.
Like awesome. Like little stuff like that. Even though I'm pretty sure Capcom would never get rid of that franchise, but it's like little stuff like that would be a win for Sony if they were able to do that. I mean. Because think about if they still had Crash Bandicoot. Think about if they still had Spyro. Like they should have took.
We wouldn't have gotten remakes of those games if they still had those IPs. Probably. So.
You think so? I think they would have remade them. I think Sony would have did that.
It is funny that Activision did that.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. So that's what I think. If Activision did it, like if Activision thought about doing it, I think Sony would have done it as well. Yeah, I just think they need to look for IPs. They need to go a different route. Just go for straight IPs. That people, buy Bayonetta. You know what I'm saying? Buy.
I don't think they'd be able to get that one.
You don't think so?
No, I think Nintendo owns that.
Oh, they do. Oh, yeah, I think you're right. I think they do.
No, actually, you're right. I think Platinum owns the IP, but they just keep making exclusive funding deals with Nintendo.
Yeah, there you go.
Make the games.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, they just need to buy some IPs and stuff like that. Maybe, like you said, buy the Soccer League IP or something like that. Or
PES would be perfect. Because PES doesn't really compete with FIFA that well, anyways. And if Sony, I feel like would have a lot more pull with licensing to pull some things away from EA that they have control over with the soccer game. Because that's always been PES's problem, is that it doesn't have the full licensing of FIFA. FIFA has like every license basically imaginable for soccer. And PES has always struggled with that. And it's like there's been iterations where PES is a much better game than FIFA. But because of that, it just like doesn't sell very well because you're not playing with the real players. Like you have to make them in the game, manually. So it's like
because that can hand that off to the team that makes the MLB the show. Like
right,
know?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, Yeah, I think that's the route they should do, and I think maybe this rumor is real. Although I don't know. From what we know about Konami, it's just like I can't see them. I see them being real stingy with Metal Gear out of spite.
Of course they would. Not only out of spite because they know Sony has a relationship with Kojima, but also because they know it's valuable. Like, I mean, Metal Gear is a valuable IP, a very valuable IP actually. So
if they did buy the Metal Gear franchise, they can also make movies out this game.
oh my god, imagine a Sony made Metal Gear.
That's what I'm saying. So like, I'm pretty sure the higher ups are thinking about this. It's just maybe they need to do a deal like they did with Marvel, right? They're like, well, we'll give you can do this with it's still our character, but you can do this with them. You know, maybe Konami needs to do that, kind of have that kind of relationship with Sony, where you know, you can use Metal Gear franchise and make the games for it and everything of that nature. But these are the stipulations for it. Don't let Kojima touch it. Like, and maybe they do let Kojima touch it, but it's like through a subsidiary studio or some shit like that.
They'd never agree to that. They never like Sony would never agree to that.
Yeah,
that would be half the reason you'd want the IP is because you have a relationship with Kojima anyway. So, Tiara, what do you think? Do you think Sony should be buying IPs or should they be buying studios?
For sure. I don't know. I think Sony does well with new IPs. Mm-hmm. So maybe studios.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want people to let certain IPs die in order to make room for new innovation and new ideas.
That is fair.
That's fair.
That's absolutely fair. And you're right. Sony does better than most other companies do actually in the gaming space. Like their studios decide that they don't want to work on a franchise anymore. They don't push it. Like Naughty Dog doesn't want to do Uncharted anymore, so they're not. Like in Last of Us, they're probably going to do a third one, but after that franchise is probably done. You know, and if Sony wants another game, they'll give it to somebody else. So they've been pretty good about that over the years for sure. And I think that actually is a large reason why their exclusives are so well respected, because most of them are new IPs for the most part. You know, and they're so high quality too. So.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that too. Are you right? Like their new IPs they come out with, like I never have any doubt that it's going to be a good game when I see it. Only one I had doubt for was Knack. That was about it.
Days Gone probably for me. But...
Oh yeah, that one didn't hit for me, but I know it did get well received. Like it was like an 8 out of 10 for a lot of people. So
platinum that trophy. It was a good game.
Yeah, so. Fair enough. And then obviously Ghost of Tsushima that just came out, like, you know,
right. Another new IP.
So they really honestly the only IP I can think of they missed on was Knack, but people forgot about that. So if you want to be honest, they don't miss with new IPs. Like they don't. So I gotta give them that. I gotta give them.
I'm about to say what's Mac, but that will prove your point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a launch game for PS4. It was like this stupid 3D platformer. And they actually made a sequel to it called Knack 2, and I don't know how that game got greenlit because no one liked Knack. So
I mean, you know, if Microsoft would have stuck with the Kinect and what they was doing with do you ever remember Smart Glass? Xbox Smart Glass? That was really cool as well. Like that was an innovative idea. If they would have stuck with those ideas, like I remember when Rise was first announced, everybody got a 360 specific or Xbox One. No, it was Xbox One for Rise, and that was actually a really good game.
And they never went back to that game, and I'm so upset about that.
Like that was a really, really good game. It was kind of cool how the voice integration it was, and it was kind of cool to use Smart Glass. Those games that had Smart Glass apps, like I forget what game I used Smart Glass with, but some game I had like Smart Glass on my iPad, and I was able to see the map, and I was able to like do other stuff. Like
Battlefield 4, you was able to do that. You can be a commander.
I didn't play Battlefield though, so that it wasn't that. But it was that. But you know, games that use Smart Glass, I'm just saying, like often I think about the innovative ideas that Microsoft has had that if they would have just really stuck with, they would have blown Sony out of the water.
Yeah.
Like,
they did have Smart Glass for Division 1 where you can bug in as like a fucking UAV or something like that for your team and then bug out.
Like that would be cool to like. I remember like what was that Dead Rising 3 or whatever where you can there's this thing where you can actually call a number on your on your cell phone and they linked up in the game. Like that was kind of cool.
That was pretty cool. Yeah.
I mean, just innovative ideas that I really feel like, because Rise got a lot of flack because it was a short game, and at the time when Xbox One was like the latest, or I guess that was the next gen. That was the next gen at the time, Xbox One, and because it cost so much, that's why everybody was like, oh, well, Rise in the Rome, like, why is it such a short game? But all of the innovative stuff, like I use the Kinect thing, calling for your different formations and having the AI do it. Like that was really cool,
Yeah.
I don't know who was running Microsoft at that time, but
what's his name? Matt Booty?
Don Matrick.
But I mean, I'm just saying, like
that?
even the Kinect, like I mean, all these innovative ideas.
Xbox Chief or something like that. I forgot who that was. I gotta look it up.
Let Tiara talk. Jesus.
I'm sorry.
God,
I mean,
Tiara,
I'm just saying all these innovative ideas that I really feel like if they would have put some weight behind it, because they were really good to start out with. So if they would,
they're kind of like they're like half-assing it almost, right? They're not fully committing to any of these things. Yeah,
but but they're gone. Like smart glass is no longer a thing. The Kinect is no longer.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Like all of these things are just no longer in existence.
Yeah.
And it's like if they would have really put weight behind it, like there would be no Sony's the clear winner. Like I feel like Xbox One would have really had or Microsoft gaming wise would have had a real chance. Like it's like, if you want this type of gaming, like with the smart glass and being in front of the Kinect, then you will buy an Xbox. If you wanted this type of gaming, like PlayStation with their third party, exclusives, then you go for that type of gaming, and it wouldn't be, it would be a reason to buy both systems,
Well, yeah, you remember Quantum Break? Like they greenlit that game.
Oh my god.
That was
such an amazing game.
What an interesting concept, right? And it
was an amazing game. Like that's what I'm saying. Like half TV show, and that's what it was. It was like half movie, half game. Because each of there was 5 different acts, and in between each act there was a cutscene.
Yeah.
And that cutscene was a movie, and that movie was like 20 minutes long. And it was
it was like live action, right?
It was live action because I watched the behind the scenes and these were the actors, the main character, the protagonist and the antagonist. Both of those were well-known actors. I've seen them in TV shows, like the guy who played Littlefinger.
Yeah, right.
Played the antagonist. And it was such a cool concept. Like the whole Quantum Break thing was such a cool concept. Like, and that was another thing, like the whole TV video game thing, like. You would never really thought of them together. I mean, obviously games have cutscenes, but a live action cutscene, like they actually shot a movie for the cutscene, like so cool. And Xbox or Microsoft could have very well stuck with that idea. They could have very well came out with multiple games like that, even if it wasn't a second Quantum. I mean, Quantum Break ended, pretty well. Like it was clear that it was only going to be like a one and done type game, but it didn't even have to be another Quantum Break. But in that realm of that unique genre is something Microsoft could have really continued
played with,
pioneered it. Like this whole let's be like Sony with generic gaming. Not to say that Sony's generic gaming, but it's just like to say like if I'm trying to keep up, I don't hate Sony at all. I have a fucking PlayStation. What are you talking about?
I mean, she's platinum like half the exclusives on PS4, dude. Like,
that's true.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't hate Sony at all. But what I'm saying, I don't mean generic gaming.
No, I know what you mean. The same game. They keep making the same game over and over again. They make it really fucking well, but they're making the same. They're all third-person action games. This is a critique of Sony that I don't see very much, and it's a great point. Because it's something that I think eventually is going to come back and haunt them if they don't diversify their portfolio. Because think about it, right? Horizon, third-person action game. God of War, third-person action game. Uncharted and Last of Us, third-person action games. Fucking Spider-Man, third-person action game. Days Gone, third-person action game. Like they're all third-person action games.
I mean, Detroit Becoming Human was episodic, but at the same time, it was still kind of third person.
But that was a second party exclusive, and they don't have a relationship with that studio anymore, so they're not getting any more. They're not getting any more of those. Like,
well, who was that? What was that called?
That was
the people who made
Quantic Dream.
Yeah, Quantic Dream, right? The people who made Quantic Dream. They the one who made
What's it? Oh my god.
They made
Heavy Rain, right? And then the game after that, what's her name was in
Two Souls or something.
Beyond
like
Two
that.
Souls. That's right.
Beyond,
yep.
yeah, something, yeah,
yeah.
And so I'm like,
so I know what you're getting at.
You know, like I bought a PlayStation specifically to play those third-party games. Like that's what I'm saying. Like having a reason to buy a system. Like Microsoft could have really carved out. I mean, they did carve out a niche. They just, didn't give it life, and so it died.
Right.
But when I think about it, those were very innovative ideas that actually were executed really well.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. It's not like they had an idea and it failed. Like I don't know. Like you should all go back and play Quantum Break. It was a really good game. Like really good. And then on top of that, Quantum Break, because the game centered around time travel and things of that nature, like your choices were different. The cutscenes were different depending on your choices. Like something that you did in Act 1 your Act 4 may be different. Like it was the whole thing because the game was centered around time travel.
Interesting. So that sounds like a lot of work went into that.
And it was that's what I'm saying. Because the main character had time travel, like he had time abilities. He could stop time. He could speed up time. He could it was just a bunch of stuff. So
fair enough. Well, yeah. I mean that point about Sony I think is well taken. So I definitely want to see some diversity out of them, which is I think going back to our discussion about IPs and stuff and getting different like getting Silent Hill and having Kojima make a Silent Hill game, like that would diversify the portfolio. That would get you a horror game.
But that's what I'm talking about though. Like that's why I don't want IPs. I want whatever IP is in existence. If you can't get it, let it die. Like
just make a new one.
Yeah, you need new like that's what irritates me about Microsoft. Like with this Halo and Gears, like let it die.
Yeah,
literally, just let it die. Let new innovative ideas come about. Let have a new franchise be your face.
Yeah, I think that's what they bought new studios. They're planning on letting those franchises die.
It's just let it fucking die. Like fuck, Master Chief should have been died, or give him an ending. Like I'm telling you, it really irritates me, and honestly, like it pushes me away from first party because as I felt like I played Gears 4 with a friend. But it was just such a drag to get through fucking Gears 4, and I love Gears 1, 2, and 3, and it was just a drag to get through Gears 4 because it was just like I'm playing it for the nostalgia, but I don't care about none of these characters. Should have ended with it should have ended with Gears 3. I didn't understand why there needed to be a Gears 4 and a Gears 5 and all these other Gears. Like I don't get it. So I'm just like, just let the IP die. It's okay if you give it a good ending. Like Gears 3 had a really good ending. If you give it a good ending, you can let the IP die and it's fine. Like, there are plenty of students, young innovators who want to go into video game design who have all of these really great ideas. Like, let's foster some talent.
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, I think innovation is something that games still do struggle with. So I'm with you. I mean,
it's not even just the games though. TV shows, movies, like it's not just video games. But I do feel like video games really have no excuse. Honestly,
they have a lot more they can do than the other.
That's what I'm saying. You can do. You can put anything. You can make a video game about anything. Literally.
Well,
anything.
Not even that. Just like you were talking about control schemes and the way you hook in other technology into your games. Like you can't really do that with movies and television. If you do, it's going to be gimmicky. So it's like games have a lot more potential in that realm of innovation too. So, but the thing is that it's a capitalist driven industry. These companies are going for things that are safe. So that's why we keep seeing these same IPs. Halo sells, Gears sells. Even though Gears, I do feel like at this point it is time to kind of let that one go. But I don't know. That's just me, I guess. All right, you guys have any other thoughts on that?
Nah, I'm ready to go.
All right,
moving
on. So this story is kind of like a small story that, in my opinion, has like huge potential. So Mike Morhaime, the former founder of Blizzard, has created his own development company called Dreamhaven, and he is opening 2 studios called Moonshot and Secret Door, led by ex-Blizzard developers, including people. If you're a Blizzard head, you might know some of these names: Justin Browder, Jason Chase, Ben Thompson. And then Secret Door is going to be led by Chris Sigatti. I can't say that dude's name. Alan DeBeery and Eric Dodds. So these are all people that were long-time Blizzard vets. Browder in particular worked at the company for 25 years, and I knew this dude all the way back, like with like Warcraft 3 even, and stuff. So, but he was the director of StarCraft 2, Heroes of the Storm, and he's done other games as well. So like I said, this is a small thing now, but this feels like something that we're going to be talking about probably in the years to come. Because this is Morhaime doing this means that he wants to be in games, right? He's him and his wife, I believe, are funding both of these studios out of their own pockets too, in the near term, which is interesting. So that means they want to be doing this, right?
And they open it in the same city as Blizzard Studios as well.
Yes, right.
And it's expensive as hell to live out there.
Yeah, and that's Anaheim,
yeah,
right, California. Which that's a very expensive place. And that means though what we just said means that he wasn't happy at Activision at the end. You know, like I think Activision's influence has finally gotten to a point with Blizzard where a lot of these guys are done with it. Like they don't want to deal with them anymore. So I think it's hard to deny at this point that Activision's having an influence on Blizzard, even though it's already impossible to deny that. But whether it's negative or not is probably up to personal opinion. But
yeah,
I think this is an important story to touch on because these guys are very good game developers. They've made some of the best games I've ever played, and I think they can still do that. And the fact that they are going to have no one over them telling them what to do is great. So I'm going to be very excited to see what comes out of these 2 studios. We'll see what that looks like in the future. But do you guys have any thoughts, I guess, on this? TR, I don't think you're much of a Blizzard fan with their games, but Montreal, I know you've played a few of their games, right?
Yeah, I played a lot of their games. I played obviously I just played Warcraft 3, but I played WoW, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
StarCraft 1 and 2. What's the game with the 3 Vikings? I used to play that game all the time.
I think it's called 3 Vikings.
Oh, it is? Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
Hold on. Oh no, sorry, Lost Vikings.
Lost Vikings. Yeah, I used to love that game.
Vikings. My bad. Rock and Roll Racing on the NES. That one I played and I love it.
So all those games were phenomenal for me when I played it.
Mm-hmm.
And they have, well, especially StarCraft 2 and WoW have long shelf life, so they never really developed any other games outside of those games like that because they try to perfect those games. Oh, and Diablo obviously as well.
Right, of course.
But I am interested in the studio because I think it's Secret Door or Moonshot actually supposed to be doing tabletop games. So I am
yes.
interested.
So yeah, the people I named, one of them, Ben Thompson, he was the creative director on Hearthstone, and he was the art director for the World of Warcraft trading card game, the physical card game.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And then he actually has credits on Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering as well.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So I'm interested in seeing what he's gonna I know they're gonna do some kind of spin with the tabletop, so I'm interested in seeing what they're gonna do with that. If that ever comes out. My only concern is with these big studios, and not big studios, but with these studios that make really well games, right? I still haven't played Kojima's game. What's it called?
Death Stranding,
right? But it was so drastically different from Metal Gear and his other games that he made. Even though I know it got well received, I still haven't played it. But I do remember when it first came out, people were like, it was almost impossible for that game to live up to the hype. And that's what I'm fearing for this studio. It's almost going to be impossible for them to live up to the hype for their first game. Because I predict their first game is going to be like a small project type game. Probably. I don't think they're going to do nothing like massive, right? Like, I think that's what people are thinking. Like, And I know I was certainly thinking that when I was like, oh man, we're gonna get like another fucking WoW style game, but it's like it took years to reach that, right? So it's like,
yeah.
so it's like,
well, they need to make money in the near term too. Like I said, Mike Morhaime and his wife are funding this right now. They need to make a game quickly to get out the door so they can make some money for the next game, like for something bigger. So I think that's probably, I think you're 100% right. I think their first game is going to be something small. And honestly, don't expect an RTS out of the studio ever. Like RTSs are not popular. No one buys them and they're not very marketable anymore. So like, don't expect that. That is not my expectation. Don't expect an MMO. Like, don't even expect like a Diablo clone. Like you're gonna like these guys could make something completely different from what they've made in the past. Like Montreal was saying about Kojima. So
and you know what? They're canceled projects showed they wanted to make, like StarCraft Ghost. That was going to be a stealth action game. It's like they have the talent to do that. They just, maybe they didn't have enough time to do it, or whatever the case may be. Because I think even when they were with Blizzard, they were under somebody, right?
They were owned by Interplay. For a long time. And, and then Vivendi once Interplay was gone. And then Activision bought from Vivendi. So
so I'm pretty sure like they wanted to make a first person StarCraft game. They wanted to make different types of games. So we may get a shooter from them. We may get a stealth action game. We may get some kind of other style of game. I don't
get an RPG too, like a Fallout style RPG or something. Like,
you're right.
Who knows?
Yeah, we could get something like that. So it's like, I don't expect them to make some kind of Diablo-esque game. I don't expect them to make any kind of MMO or even an RTS, but I do expect them to make a really good game. But I'm not going to expect like the world out of the game, if that makes any sense. Like I know they know the fundamentals of game design, but it's probably going to be like I predict maybe like a $30 game, like a quick game they can get out, people play it, love it, and buy it, and then the next game will be a full-fledged, AAA project or AA project. You know what I'm saying? So right. I don't know. I mean, I think it's gonna be interesting, or maybe they just do some work for like first exclusive work for Sony or Microsoft or whoever. Like they have that capability now. Like they're not under anybody, so they can do anything they want to. So I think it's really cool. But like I said, it's going to be hard for them. I'm not expecting the world from them, but it's going to be hard when people hear these names and not expect the world from them. Because I feel like that happened. I feel like Kojima got lucky with Death Stranding. Like it wasn't a bad game, so it lived up to the hype. But I still felt like a lot of people were like, this isn't what I expected from Death Stranding. I was
they wanted like an action game. And that's not what Death Stranding was.
I don't know, like, because I remember watching Death Stranding took like just as long as the Ghost of Tsushima took to come out. It took like 5 years for that game to come out as well. And I remember when I was working at Microsoft at the time. I remember we were watching E3 when it first premiered, and everybody wanted the game because Norman Reedus is at the height of the Walking Dead, epidemic. Norman Reedus was the main character, and he had this fucking umbilical cord attached to this fucking baby, and everybody's like, what is going on? Like, and they kept showing some variation of that clip for like years at E3. And then I remember I always ask my friends, I used to always say, what is that game? Or Norman Reedus and the umbilical cord. And I used to always say, call it that, because I would always forget what the name was. And I would always say, between that game and Detroit Become Human, whatever one come out first, like I'm going to buy a PlayStation to play whatever one of those comes out first. It happens to be Detroit Become Human.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically speaking, like that game had a lot of hype behind it because of it was a strategic to have Norman Reedus as the protagonist, and then 2, because Kojima had built up a reputation that anything he slaps his name on is like, all right, we gotta play it. I like literally, and it's so crazy because literally, when the game came out last November, like it came out and we still did not know what the fuck the game was about. Like, I remember the lead up. I downloaded it. Day one, like downloaded it because I knew I had to play that game day one, and I was just like, and everybody was like, all right, so what is it about? And I'm like, yo, I don't know. Like, I legit don't know. I even try to read a synopsis of it, it still wasn't there. And even now, I can tell you, can kind of tell you what the game is about, but you are not going to be able to put it in context until you play it, because it's a unique world.
Mhm.
Where it's like you talking about creatures that have never been in existence. Like, it would be one thing, it would be like, oh, you hunting vampires. Like, oh, everybody knows what vampire is. Everybody knows what like a werewolf is, or something supernatural like that. But I tell you, oh, you're the people you're avoiding in the game, the things that you're avoiding in the game are BTs. Oh, what
Yeah.
are BTs? It stands for beach things. What is a beach thing? Like, it's like it's like a whole new novel world that I still couldn't explain to you what it was.
Well,
You
no,
literally have to play the game to
well, no,
understand
that's what I'm saying. No,
what
I'm
it's
saying like
about.
the game was really good in that aspect, but I'm just saying like the hype expectation because of who Kojima is. Like, this is the same. That's this studio. These people, Mike Morhaime and everybody that he just mentioned, they have that same level of talent. Like, and it's going to be.
Oh, yeah.
When
But
they're first,
are
when
you
they're-
saying that they have that same level of talent? They just don't have Kojima's name, or they have
No,
that
no,
same
no.
level of
They
talent and they have Kojima's name?
They
I mean,
have
They have
Kojima's
Kojima's name in different circles than Kojima has his name in. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like they're
in
really,
the PC gaming space, these guys are fucking legendary. Like,
Yeah.
they're some of the most prolific game developers in the space. Like, they are a big reason why gaming is the way it is today. So
yes, and like also like Kojima, like they have to live up. They're gonna have to live up to an expectation that's unfair to Kojima and them, because
Yeah.
obviously they did XYZ and Kojima did XYZ. So
they
when
don't have
Death-
the funding that they had at that point. Like, when
Exactly.
they work with their former company. So
Yeah, exactly. And like that's why I said Kojima got lucky in that aspect. Not aspect that the game actually turned out to be good, but he had like the funding and everything of that nature. But he was still fighting an uphill battle himself because it was a brand new IP and people just expected the best. You know what I'm saying? Out of and he delivered. But I approach Death Stranding with like caution, because I know from like just being a realist, like not everyone's going to be able to live up to the expectation. We've seen like my expectation of producers and gamers, or not gamers, but producers and creators and stuff like that was faulted way before like Death Stranding came out, and that was with Mega Man. Kenji Inafune was supposedly the creator or like the head director of like Mega Man. He made all these super cool Mega Man games and stuff like that. Turns out that was all false. Like he did produce them, but he didn't produce them to the level that we thought he did. And then Mighty Number 9 came out, and that game turned out to be a disaster because of the hype that was behind it, because everyone expected. He actually kind of marketed too as like the successor to Mega Man and shit like that. And then on top of that, everyone hated Capcom. It was just a whole mess. It was the same thing kind of like with Kojima, but he came out, he had this game, he didn't have the funding, first of all, and then second of all, it was just the way the game was handled on top of that was just really bad and poor. And it turned out to be a mess. So ever since that happened, I approached these games like, I got to remember that they don't have this huge studio behind them. Yeah, they may have the ideas, but sometimes the funding may not match the idea. And that's what I'm trying to get with Mike Morhaime, like, and his company in Dreamhaven. They have that Kojima level status, that Kenji Inafune status, but they may not have the funding. So we shouldn't hold them to the expectation of, oh my God, their next game is going to be the greatest game ever. It may just be like a 7 out of 10 game, and that's cool. Like, that's okay. And gamers need to learn how to accept that. Because it happened to me, and it was heartbreaking. So
fair enough. Well, all right. Let's move on to our big story that happened today. Actually, is that so? It's come out. Bloomberg released an article. Jason Schreier, and I'm gonna be honest, getting fatigued, kind of talking about these stories at this point. But CD Projekt, it came out that they have mandated that their workers are going to be doing an extra day of work, so a 6th day that's full overtime until the release of Cyberpunk 2077. This day will be paid, but it's going to be mandatory for everybody at the studio. And this comes the real problem here is that this comes after the co-founder of CD Projekt Red, Martin Iwinski, said last year that the studio would not ever do mandatory crunch for Cyberpunk 2077. So they're basically they've gone back on their word here a little bit. But this is another in this line of stories, I guess, of crunch within the industry once again. So Tiara, go ahead.
You know, the Raptors told DeMar DeRozan they wouldn't trade him, but when Kawhi Leonard came up, it's like, I know I said that, but I never expected to get Kawhi Leonard, so I gotta go through with this. And it's the same thing. It's just like, I know I said that, and at the time I said that, I meant it, but Cyberpunk, 2077 with combination of the next gen games, like kind of gotta do a crunch, like it's like November is right around the corner, so it's like a month away, really, because we're about to be in October tomorrow, so it's like a month away. So yeah, like it's like they didn't mean to go back on their word. They meant what they said when they said it, but I mean, situations change.
Yeah,
I'm sorry for the workers, but you gotta understand from a business perspective, like they don't want to miss the launch of the next gen systems.
At the very least, they're getting paid, which is not.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been one thing. It would have been one thing if they wasn't getting paid.
Which
like,
that does
but
happen.
They're getting paid.
That does happen plenty. But I think the thing is, we all know here on this podcast that like nothing you want to make gets made. Like you don't do anything in your life without experiencing some form of like crunch like this, where you work over, like you don't work overtime. It's like this podcast.
I work crunch as a teacher.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And this podcast, though, this is extra things that we've layered onto our lives, right? This is like, this is our form of crunch, right? But this is not going to get done if we don't do that, right? Like we can't do it within our normal lives, like without spending extra time on it. So from that perspective, I kind of understand. It's just the fact that it's mandated from a company is probably hard to swallow for people working there. But
the thing is, though, Cyberpunk has already been delayed so much already, and like
they can't afford another one, right?
And I mean, CD Projekt is a successful studio, but they're still up and coming. So for them, Cyberpunk is like their next big IP. They can't fail on Cyberpunk. They can't miss the boat on Cyberpunk because if they wait too long for Cyberpunk, too long after the launch for Cyberpunk to come out, especially with the holiday season, they could potentially miss money that way. Because other games are coming out at that time, Valhalla, some other games, but I don't think about Valhalla. But I'm just saying, like, but there's a bunch of games that come out you gotta compete with, so it's just like you gotta be ready.
I mean, Call of Duty comes out that same week, I think, right?
That's what I'm saying.
I think the whole conversation around crunch, though, is the concept of like salary, right? I think that format needs to change. I think they need to go to an hourly basis. I think that's the whole reason why people keep making these crunch articles because you have people in the game industry, like it's so many stories out there, but like the one I said about BioWare pre-show, where people were like, having depression issues, working 100 hours a week, sleeping in office, and then not only that, but then you have the other one for Activision, where they're making Black Ops 2 and 3 and stuff like that, and then you had certain people there who are working in poor work conditions in California, like 120 degrees in the office with no air conditioning, and it's like, and that's legal because of they're either they're making like $12 an hour, they're getting paid trash, or they were working salary and they were working 100 to 150 hours a week at the computer station, not seeing their family and stuff like that. I mean, it's even a running joke if you beat games, like if y'all beat when y'all beat Ghost of Tsushima, that they have development babies. Like some people don't see their babies because they're developing the games. So I understand where you come from. I 100% agree with you. Going to school in that culture, I was taught in school when I was going to game design, you have to put in work, like, because like you said, there are 100, it's competition, like people trying to get your spot and everything like that, but it's also like once you get the spot, you still doing 100 plus hours, like, and that's the expectation, and it's like
Yeah,
I don't think
It's
that's
it's an unsustainable part of the industry.
Yeah.
I think is gonna burn. It's burned tons of people out, and it honestly is a big reason why I think myself, like, I've never pursued actually going into game dev because it's not. I don't think it's worth killing yourself working 60 to 80 hour weeks to make something. Like, it's just, I don't think it's worth it personally. Like, for instance, and I think the idea that in some of these instances people aren't paid for the overtime they work is absolutely insane. Like, TR, you're a teacher, right? I think it's fucking completely crazy that you guys work as much overtime as you do and you don't get compensated for that time on top of the salary you're already paid. Like, that is crazy to me. Like, I think that is straight up just taking advantage of people. Like, I don't think there's any other way to say it. Like, I don't think that's a fair system. And like, it's similar in games in a lot of cases. Like, these companies can make you salaried, make you work overtime, and they don't have to pay you because you're salaried. Like, you're expected to work whatever you're expected to work because you're salaried. Like, that's just the way it works. So I think that part of it is a big part of why this keeps coming up. Is it's not just the hours they're working. A lot of the time it's the lack of compensation on top of the hours they're working. And it's a plague within the industry too. It's not just one or two companies doing this. Fucking every company does this almost. Like, it is a culture within game development that is a problem. So, I mean, it's something that I understand what you were saying early on, right? Like things change, right? Like, you can promise one thing, but then you're seeing that you do need this extra time before the games. I mean, what are we? We're not even 8 weeks. We're like 6 weeks away from the game coming out, right? So it's like, you need to do what you need to do to make sure the game hits the date that it's going to hit. They can't delay it again, right? Like, I don't think that would be a good idea for the game. So they know that, and I'm sure a lot of developers know that too. Even in the story, it says that many of them have been working overtime for like weeks now. So I get that side of it. It's just that this is an indication, though, that they've mismanaged things up to this point, right? You shouldn't need the overtime if you manage things properly. If you have enough people, you fund the project right, you give enough time for the project to be made the way you want it to be made. But that's the issue with game dev, is a lot of time there's scope creep. The scope is too large for the game. Even initially, they try to do things that are too ambitious, and they can't properly like figure out how long it's going to take them to make the game. So that planning becomes difficult, which then results in crunch later on. So it's just a whole thing with it's a very layered conversation with crunch in video games.
Yeah.
So,
and I wouldn't mind crunch. I can't remember what studio does it. I think it's Epic, actually. They give some of their employees. Yeah, it was Epic. They gave some of their employees royalties, I think, for Borderlands 3 or something.
That's very common. No, that's very common, actually. A lot of studios, like CD Projekt Red, actually, even like the Badowski came out and said, or Winsky, I don't remember which one of them. They said today, like, that 10% of the sales of Cyberpunk 2077 are going to be split as bonuses throughout the entirety of the studio. So that's a common practice, and that's how they kind of compensate this kind of culture, is to like pay these people extremely well. But that doesn't make up for the health issues that come up, the lack of time with your family and things like that. So, I mean, it's really up to the individual if that's worth it to you or not. So,
yeah, I mean, I guess I just, yeah. I mean, all right. I think everyone in this conversation is right. I agree with Tiara, and I agree with your point. I agree with my point, obviously. But it's just like,
I agree with myself.
I mean,
I made great points.
You could disagree with yourself, but it's like, I think there just need to be some kind of balance, right? Like, I just think there needs to be some kind of balance between developers and the higher ups and the co-directors and stuff, because, you know, obviously the lead designers and all that stuff like that, a lot of them are going home at 5 o'clock. They're not staying there working till
well, what hours. Are they doing? Like, they like some of these people don't have applied skills. They're managers, right?
Yeah.
So it's like like you're not the one coding the game, right? Like, after 5 o'clock, your meetings are all over. Like, what are you even sitting there for? You're wasting people's time. You know?
Yeah.
So that is an issue with, like, just the way and I'm sure in some studios that's not true. Like, I'm sure that in a lot of cases these guys do have applied skills, but in the cases they don't, I mean, it's kind of shitty. So
yeah. So I mean, it's just time, scope, and cost. That's the triangle they teach you in school, and unfortunately, the time and the scope part gets a little bit left out. When it comes, they have the money for it, but it's just the development time for these games and these ambitions. I feel like now with the newer consoles, they don't have to really think of any kind of cutaways or workarounds to get what they want to do, because that SSD is like a huge deal for game developers. So they don't really have to think of like, how I'm going to bake 5 textures into one thing now so I can, make more memory and load up the thing. They don't have to think of all that anymore. They can just kind of do what they want to do. So that should alleviate stress for the next couple of years for developers, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there's other stuff to talk about with the story, but I don't really want to get into it at this point. Like the person who wrote this, Jason Schreier, has a very clear political agenda with these stories at this point, which is a layer to this whole conversation, because he's always the one that reports on these. So that is something to keep in mind, is there is a clear bias from the person writing the stories too. So keep that in mind. Because if you read the story, like it's like hidden, like 4, 5, 6 paragraphs in that they're paying for the overtime. Like he's trying to make sure that you don't see that. Like he doesn't want you to see that. He wants you to read the headline and be like, "Oh, CD Projekt Red bad," So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind too. As much as I do agree with his perspective somewhat, like that's part of this as well. So make your own conclusion from the information given on this. So, all right, let's move on. We only got a couple more here. So, Square Enix announced, I think this was at TGS last week, right?
Yep.
That Nier Replicant, which they had announced a few months ago, they gave it a release date, and they also gave it an official name. So it's called Nier Replicant version 1.2247448713. Square Enix, can you go suck a dick? Fuck these names. I hate your naming schemes. Like, goddamn, just be normal. Just call it Nier Replicant Remake or something like that.
3.8 story so far.
My God, suck a dick, dude. Like, I hate it. But this is a remake of the first Nier that came out in Japan. I'll explain this in a second. They announced it's getting launched on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC via Steam, by the way, not Epic Games Store. PlayStation 4, Xbox One on April 23rd, 2021. So interesting that it's not on the next-gen consoles. At least they didn't announce that here, which brings up a point I want to talk about in a second. But so this game, though, is, like I said, a remake of the first Nier. However, there were 2 different versions of the first Nier. There was the one that released in Japan and then the one that released here in the West. The one we got in the West is called Nier Gestalt, and it's a slightly different version of the same game. Basically, the main characters have the same name in both games. The main characters, rather, have the same names in both games. They're just aged differently. So in Replicant, which is what we're getting a remake of, the main characters are brother and sister. Whereas in the one we got, there's a male and a female main character. The male character in the one we got is an older man, like kind of in his 40s, who is the father of the female main character. So it's just a different perspective. But from what I understand, I didn't play either game, so I don't know for sure. But from what I've read, the stories still play out very similarly despite those differences. So it will be interesting, though, if we get some kind of re-release of Gestalt at some point. I'm not sure. Who knows? So this game is being made, though, not by Platinum. I do want to point that out. It's being made by a company. I think they're called Toy Logic or something like that. Are you, Montreal? I know you played Nier a little bit. Tiara, did you ever play Nier Automata?
I did not.
Okay. Well, Montreal, I guess I'll ask you specifically. Like, are you excited about this remake?
Yeah. I mean, not every action game has to be made by fucking Platinum, so I am excited. I did like the gameplay that I saw for it. Unfortunately, like I said, I played Nier, the first Nier on Xbox 360. I can't remember. If you ask me the story of that game, I cannot fucking remember it. So this would be almost a brand new take for me because I played Nier so long ago, and I did see the combat, though. It looks like it's still the Near Automata combat, but I'm assuming they're gonna put their own little flair to it as well.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting to see what they're gonna do with it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm excited about this too. I don't know how I'm not. I don't know. It's weird. In the lead up to Nier Automata, I wasn't like super jazzed about it, and then all of a sudden I got really excited about it, and the game delivered. So who knows? Maybe the same thing will happen here.
Yeah, that's why I'm keeping my expectations low.
Yeah, I know. Well, like, right. It's not being made by Platinum either, so it's kind of like I'm not sure what to expect out of it. But I guess we'll find out. I'm definitely gonna be playing it. So I do want to talk about though the fact that it's not coming, like it wasn't announced to be coming for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Like this is where I'm starting to get like kind of concerned a little bit with some of this. Is that Sony, in particular, Sony has been so weird about backwards compatibility
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not sure that I can trust this game is going to work on PlayStation 5 at launch. You know, like
Yeah, I plan on probably buying it for Xbox.
yeah, I'm like kind of reticent about selling my PlayStation 4 because I'm just not sure I can trust that the PS5 version is just going to work. And I'm having that same thought with games I'm like thinking about buying in the near future. I'm like, is this game going to work on PlayStation 5? Like, am I just going to have a paperweight if I sell my PS4? So I don't like keep that in mind, everybody, until the PlayStation 5 comes out. Like, just be careful what you're buying. You know, keep that in mind.
I would say I think that this is probably how it's going to work out, and it did it for Xbox One. Even when they introduced the backwards compatibility in the Xbox 360. Usually the last 3 years of the game when the console was released, so like PlayStation 5 coming out this year, usually the last 3 or 4 years of games are all compatible. Now, if you're talking about the beginning of the generation, like your NAC 1s type games and all that stuff like that just came out when the game first launched, I think those games would not be backwards compatible. And then you got to think about really, really, really obscure games that were not really too popular on the PS4. They may not be backwards compatible because that same kind of thing happened on the Xbox 360, coming from the OG Xbox to Xbox 360. I think it was like 400 or 500 titles that were backwards compatible, but I did notice it was either super popular titles or it was titles that that was released within the last 2 or 3 years of the Xbox 360 launch. You know, so
that's how they cover themselves. So
yeah.
Because they won't say that everything's gonna work. So I'm assuming not everything's gonna work, and you're probably right. You know, like developers have had dev kits of the PS5 probably for a while, and anybody in contact with PlayStation is probably like making a game on PlayStation. Sony's probably been like, hey, make sure your game has this or these parameters in it so it works with PS5. You know,
yeah.
So I'm sure that's the case. I'm sure you're right because the next game that was announced as well. Is a similar thing for me. It's coming out after the PS5 comes out. So Brigandine, the game that I've been playing that I have a Let's Play on YouTube of, has been announced that it is coming to PS4 on December 10th.
Now, this would be one of those games I would worry about.
Exactly. This is a small game from a small developer. It is an extremely niche game, and I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work on PS5. So I'm probably going to wait until it comes out, buy it, keep my PS4 till then, and test it.
Test it out,
Test it out and see. And if it works, then we're good, you know, and I'm not concerned. But so it's coming to PS4 though, which I think this is a big deal because it's gonna be a much bigger game on PS4 than it was on Switch.
Okay.
Just because the player base on PS4 is literally double the Switch. And I think these kind of niche RPGs like this always do much better on PlayStation than most other platforms.
Yeah.
So, and this game has actually been getting a lot of play out there in the world, like on YouTube, and I've seen a little bit more discussion about this game than I was expecting. So, yeah, December 10th for it. Supposedly in Japan, but they did say they did release a trailer saying worldwide as well. So I'm pretty sure it is coming to North America as well on December 10th. So and one thing I didn't mention about the Nier thing, they did confirm that Nier Automata sold 4.8 million copies,
which
since
is
it came out in
crazy good.
Which for a JRPG, fucking crazy, dude. That is insane numbers. Congratulations to Platinum and Square on that. well deserved. This game is phenomenal. Like, it's one of the best games of the generation for sure. So, otherwise, Snake Eater, Metal Gear Solid 3 did come out only on PS2, Montreal. So I was right about that.
Oh, okay. I thought it came on GameCube. That's crazy.
Nope. Yeah, it was just Twin Snakes. That's what they did. Nintendo wanted a Metal Gear game, and they ended up doing the Twin Snakes remake of MGS1. So
Okay.
that was their way of doing it. So, otherwise, any other bullshit you guys want to bring up in this episode before we go?
No, I have a topic, but that's for like that's like the beginning of the top episode topic. So that's for next week.
Okay, fair enough. We'll go to that.
Yeah, that's all I got though.
Tiara, you got anything you want to bring up? Any topics of discussion?
Nope.
All right, fair enough. Well, that's going to be it for us, guys. If you like the show, please like the show, review the show, and subscribe to the show on whatever feed you are listening to it on. And if you could, please share it with your friends. If you'd like to interact with any of us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap4the Hokage for Montreal. That is the number 4, not the word. Tiara is at Victorian Jedi. I am at ThunderNut01, and the show is at The Player's Take. You can send questions to us on Twitter, or you can send a question to theplayerstake01@gmail.com, like we said at the beginning of the episode. And otherwise, we're done. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will see you on the next one. All right, bye.